Welcome, my beautiful sister.
Thank you so much for having me here. I'm so happy to connect with you
It's
again.
such a pleasure. And for all of my beautiful Flourishing Goddess TV subscribers and those of you who are new arriving here, welcome, welcome. I am so delighted to offer you something so sweet and special and magical. My very first Sacred Goddess Talk. This interview with a fellow beautiful soul sister. For those of you who are part of the Flourishing Goddess community, you know, my loves, that this is a space of remembering the goddess, the divine feminine, and honoring her within ourselves, within each other, on our planet, and as the goddess. And one of the sacred gifts of the goddess is sacred sisterhood, that we women are here to celebrate each other, learn from each other, sit together, even in leadership, that we sit in circle, right? That there's no hierarchy, and that we are here to really learn from each other, lean in on each other, and support each other and be inspired by each other. So it's been my intent for a very long time to begin to open this space up for bringing in my fellow soul sisters. And it's now this divine time. And I'm so grateful and blessed that my very first guest to grace us is beautiful Shereen. I've been so inspired by Shereen's Instagram account. That's how I got to know her, Law of Positivism. And she creates the most magical posts every single day that are made with so much love and beauty, that are about the goddess, the divine feminine, astrology, inspiration, yoga, meditation, chakras. Just there's so much magic there, that and I definitely hope that you'll follow her, but her posts are so good that, you know, with Instagram, when you finally come to her post, it's like you're done. You know, that's what I shared with you, is that I feel like I don't need to scroll anymore, because I always feel so inspired, and uplifted and supported. And it's like you're so connected, my love, to what the message and the theme of the energy of that day is for the collective. It's my honor to share your wisdom with our community today. And we're going to be opening to talking about the goddess, the divine feminine, feminine wisdom. So you can connect with her, my loves, in a more embodied way through my sister's gifts and wisdom and what she'll have to share. So I hope you'll be open. I welcome you to grab a cup of tea and just join in, get cozy, and let's open to receiving our beautiful sister's wisdom. And I'll just share your more official bio, my love, just so that everyone knows who you are. So Shereen Oberg is a Hatha yoga and meditation teacher, founder of the beautiful Law of Positivism Instagram and podcast. And she's studying in her last year at Chinese medicine program at, I hope I say this correctly, Acupuncture Academy. Is that correct?
Academy or Academy, yeah.
Okay, and is that Swedish?
Yeah, that's Swedish.
Okay, thank you. And she has a passion for healing through yoga and mantras, and is a Reiki level 3 practitioner. She's an intuitive, and she loves to guide people and others through deeper healing into their bodies and souls. She's a devotee of the goddess and a doula, and she helps women in all paths to heal and transform. So we're so blessed to have you here with us, my sister. And I'm so glad that you are here. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you so much for that lovely and beautiful and welcoming presentation from your heart. And yeah, like everything, I'm just like a mirror to you, because you're just mirroring yourself. And I'm so grateful that our paths crossed. We should be so grateful and excited about these times when we can connect like this, because if we didn't have Instagram or any social media, we wouldn't have, maybe we would have crossed paths somewhere, maybe.
I think it was divine destiny, but I am really grateful for this technology that brought us together.
It's like multiplying everything,
Yes.
like a consciousness that is growing, and we're like expanding and just erasing boundaries. So I'm so
Mm-hmm.
grateful, like when after our conversation on the podcast, I just feel like, okay, so another sister that I can really like, yeah, we can just, we're on the same path, and we have the same passions, and that's what unites us all. Like you said,
Mm-hmm.
we're one womb together.
Yes.
So
Oh, so beautiful. So
thank
I
you.
would love to hear from you, my love, if you could share with us what has been your journey to the goddess and the divine feminine.
Well, I would say it was a long journey. I remember throughout my childhood and my teenage years that I was always connected. I was very highly sensitive, which I know now, but I don't think anyone knew it then. But I was a lot like in my inner world, and I was quite shy, and I used to, yeah, I used to just love to be with myself, and throughout my teenage years, definitely like I got into more spirituality, and I started sensing that there's so much more than what we can see, and that we can explain with words. I started sensing things. I think I definitely tapped into my more psychic abilities then, and I had that sense even when I was a child. I could feel like the energy and the spirits and everything. So that's how that started. But I mean, it wasn't like, many of us haven't grown up in a culture where we are talking about the goddess. We're talking about more the divine masculine, which has, where we have lost the balance, right? So I think I always felt that I want to live in devotion. I even like contemplated, like, should I become a priest or a nun? But it wasn't anything like the standard religions that we have. Like it wasn't that which I didn't feel it really resonated with me, because something was missing, I felt. And also growing up, I felt very suppressed in my feminine, because I wasn't allowed to be and fully grow into a woman in my teenage years, and that's due to cultural upbringing, just as you. And I felt like that's when body shame started, and not feeling enough. And we grew up also in a culture where um, like when you used to watch TV, like the women were super skinny and looking in a certain way, like models, and and that's not reality of the woman out there, and the goddess. Like that's not how our body is. I mean, we all have different bodies. We
Yes.
should be showing all bodies. I think that's
Yes.
getting better. I mean, 15,
Mhm.
16, 17 years ago, we didn't have the diversity. So I think it started there, but I wasn't really introduced to it. I went through like my spiritual journey really accelerated. So it was like, like this for a couple of years, and I was like interested, and I was studying astrology, and I was always into like Paulo Coelho's books, and loving all like life's mysteries. I grew up watching like Sabrina the Teenage Witch and Bewitched
Yes.
and all.
Yes.
Back then I knew. So and
And
then
like we were joking how we're so witchy today that we're both wearing our black for some reason. And yes, got the
we
witchy vibes going on.
exactly, yeah, it's so rare. I rarely use black, especially when it's getting like the springtime.
Warmer.
I rarely have black items, but yeah, we synced through energy.
And thankfully the witch archetype, even though it's been shown in many different ways, at least it's been one of the aspects of the feminine that has been in part of pop culture. So at least, in our times, in our generation growing up, there were some feminine representation of the divine goddess in her aspect as witch. So I'm
Yeah.
happy that you had that. So you did always have that little bit of a connection. And so I'm curious, when you're on the spiritual path, when did she call you?
Mm, yeah, it came from nowhere because I actually didn't have that much knowledge or wisdom about it. I was in Thailand for my yoga teacher training, and we did a beautiful shamanic drum journey where I honestly never like I always knew there's something. I used to say the universe or like God or like the highest spirit, but I never had the connection like directly goddess. Like that wasn't. I didn't have that consciousness yet, and I went into this shamanic journey where you go into. Um, it's when they're drumming, the shamans are drumming. It's like you when go into a trance state, but it feels like a meditation, so it's not like something to be afraid of.
Sure.
And then she asked us to first go down, because also shamans work a lot with the earth and going down, because otherwise we're just working up up up. We
Mhm.
also need to go down, and there we should, she said, we will meet our animal's spirit,
Okay.
um, or our spirit animal actually.
Mhm.
And I have, since I was a child, dreamt of like all these cat animals, like lions, and like I used to dream that I was in a savanna and like in the desert, and this like herd of animals were coming to me, or I was in a city and it's like completely empty and they used to come, but I was always afraid. But I met this beautiful lion in this journey, and I just had a deep connection, and it felt like it was also connected to my past life
Okay.
when I was, because this felt like somewhere in the African continent
Mm.
where I was very close to animals. And then after this session, we did another session, and we should go up and meet our spirit guide. And the spirit guide could be someone that you know that has passed. It can be a human, it can be an alien, it can be anything. And I've never connected, but I remember these sessions were so intense. I could physically feel and hear the spirits that was in the room,
Oh,
because this
wow.
woman, this wise woman, Marina, from Marina Yoga in Thailand, she has a beautiful ashram there. She's been
Mm.
working with this so many years. Her wisdom and her work with spirits are so amazing. And the session was so intense, and the journey took me upwards to meet my spirit guide, and I didn't know what to expect. And I had been working with angels. I don't know what I was expecting, but it took me up on a high plateau in the mountains, and it was actually an eagle that came and picked me up there. And it was like just clouds, like the clouds were below us, and it was so beautiful. And when this eagle dropped me off and landed, it turned into a woman with eagle wings. And I'm like, okay. And I was like looking, because I was laying down and I was looking at this tall woman, and uh, the guide, the shaman asked us to ask the name like over and over until we get the name, and also ask about a question or something that we need to know. And the eagle woman came but didn't let me ask anything, because she was playing with me with her wings and like
Oh.
surrounding me with it. And I'm like, but wait, I need to, it was so vivid, it felt like I was there, like
Mhm.
physically.
Mhm.
And then after a while, she said the name. I was like, Ishta or Ishtar. And the
Mm.
only time I've heard that name was when I was young. I had a friend called Ishtar. It was when I was 5 or 6. And then I asked her questions. She didn't tell me who she was. She was telling me what I need to do. And that was to nurture the world. and because she's nurturing also the world, so we channel her. And yeah, that was a beautiful, and after the session, the shaman also confirmed that she had seen her also, because the shaman can kind of journey with you as they're drumming and journeying. And I had to look it up, so I just googled the name, and then Ishtar came up with her wings and the
Oh,
lion and everything. So I was like
oh,
freaking out on. And I'm like, how can I not know? Because this is like ancient, like Ishtar or Inanna, ancient Babylon, Sumeria. That's where I'm like, that's my roots. So
those are your roots. Those are
yeah,
your
how
roots.
could I not
Yes.
know about this? So I started
Because we're
studying.
not taught, but she's still with you, and she was there with you all along as a beautiful divine guardian. And what a sacred reunion that was. And what a blessing that someone, this beautiful practitioner, priestess, was able to hold space for
Mhm.
you to have this. I don't think it's like a connection for the first time. I always feel it's reuniting and remembering our
Yeah,
roots and our truth and our connection to the goddesses. So, what a beautiful way to connect with her. And I'm sure that facilitated the beginning of the journey of connecting with the goddess and the
yeah.
divine feminine. And I'm
Mhm.
curious as to, for our listeners, when oftentimes I work with women, they usually, the path is they first discover that they're a sensitive soul, and
Mm.
that's very empowering because we tend to go our whole lives feeling a little different, and sometimes maybe we're even told you're very sensitive, and we are kind of living in a different world. Right?
Mm.
So
Yeah,
usually the path goes that first it's just such a beautiful discovery to know that we are highly sensitive, and then as we get into the spiritual path, the goddess begins to open up as well. And similar to you, I actually did connect with angels before I did with the goddesses, or at least as directly with the goddesses.
yeah,
And once the goddesses come in, they just reveal so much ancient wisdom that I feel is in our roots, maybe based on our own lineage. But I think just as a woman, we carry these collective codes inside of us. So I'm
yeah.
curious to hear from you, because our listeners would probably really appreciate this when they begin to discover the goddess. Sometimes they're wondering, okay, now that I know about the goddess, how do I start connecting with her? What are a couple of my first steps? They might Google her, they might like get my book Goddess Reclaimed. And I like to give usually in my, work a lot of tools, practices,
Yeah.
meditations they can do. But that's one of the first questions. So I would love to hear from you, your wisdom, what guidance you might have, maybe based on what you have learned, that they can begin to connect with the goddesses once they
Mhm.
find her or she finds them. Well, I mean, she always finds us, but once we reconnect with her.
Yeah. I mean, I see it when you get the connection, that's one initiation. So you have to see it as a path where there's no beginning or end in truth, because you're in it, you were born from a womb, that was your first initiation. Then you go through steps in life, maybe you go through like really terrible, horrible things in your life, or really just feeling like, yeah, like you're an alien sometimes. That's also initiations. And then when you meet her, you're so, you can't be like uncertain about it. You feel it like deep, like, okay, this has come to me for a reason. Sometimes it doesn't sink in, it takes time. For me, it took time. It's like, okay, she came, she appeared, the message maybe took me years to understand what she was telling me, because back then I wasn't open to hear it, but she still told me. And what happens is that the best thing is to be with whatever you get the first time, and to start, when she comes to you, she's telling you to connect with yourself first, like
Mm.
connect. Okay, you can, if we look like, if we take it like this, when you're trying to learn something from a logical point of view, you're using your masculine and your yang, and I'm like
Mm.
that. I love to study and read. I've been like that my whole life. But also letting it sink in and just be with it in a passive way. Fill yourself up with the knowledge and information, and then let it sink in for a while. And we don't need to do so much to like see it as your right and your like natural state to be in communion with her, because you have probably served her for many 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 lifetimes. Maybe you have, this is just a remembrance, like you said. And as you go and you connect deeper with yourself, more and more either deities or goddesses or spirit guides, like Mary Magdalene came to me as well in a beautiful, also as a spirit guide. And they come and they initiate you again in like deeper and deeper, and we will have experiences in life that will initiate us deeper. So we should always know that the path of the priestess, or just the being in devotion, can be also be very tough. So we are constantly reminded, if we're going off track, that okay, you have to come back and to be within yourself. So connecting with your body, with your womb, and also know if you are suppressing anything in your feminine, which we all are. I think
Sure.
we are still, it doesn't.
And I would love to actually delve a little deeper into that because of your work as a doula and a yoga teacher, and you really get to work with women in their bodies and very specifically in their wombs. What do you find is some of the ways that we get challenged in reconnecting to our divine feminine shakti, our pleasure, our power to create, our womb wisdom, in the women that you work with? And then what are some things that we can do to heal that, clear that, and reconnect with the the gifts of the goddess within our body temples?
Yeah, that's a beautiful question. There's so much, but it starts with going deep within ourselves to discover what are our blockages and what are we conditioned to think and believe, because our thoughts are really powerful and it creates emotions, and it creates our life. So I think one of the important things for me was to go into like my own, what do you call it, where the nuns live, like the my own temple, which was actually, I had to go inwards a lot to like we're so different, all of us, but for me it was a time, years of spending time with myself and to harness self-love, and that came from working with everything that I was believing about myself that wasn't true. It was negative, and I didn't accept myself and my body, and I was very much in the masculine. Like we were all taught to be in the masculine, which means that we have to achieve, we have to work, we have to do this and that. And one of the things that are really really important is that you can't continue doing things in your life that you are not comfortable with, or that you are not feeling like this is your divine purpose. And you know that when you're doing something that you love, you're happy. If you're in a job where you feel miserable, or around people or having relationships that make you feel like, yeah, just not at your highest potential, then you know it's not right for you. And that can take time, it can take years to realize, okay, this is not serving me. But that is how you move closer towards the divine feminine, is to take a step back instead of just pushing and pushing. Because it's like, this life has not been given to you to live up to other people's expectations, because the world is not
Ooh,
healthy.
now I'm just feeling Lilith come through.
Like, the world is not healthy. Like,
Yeah.
we have been plagued for a long time. Like, when we read about history, like for me history was a joke. Even when I was 18 years old, I was like, why are we reading about wars that men have caused and acted out? So it's like we are already in a strange world, so why do we conform to that? And I think one of the most important things is also to connect with other sisters, and women are really, like, the work that we're doing is so accepted now.
Yes.
And first of all, and this is the thing, many of us have had past lives which were not so great when we were,
we've been burnt at the stake, persecuted,
yeah,
tortured,
all of
punished.
that.
Yes. And I think maybe that's one of the reasons we both felt called for Black today, is I think we're really reconnecting and honoring that we are the witches, the wise women, the healers, the priestesses, the medicine women, the midwives, the oracles, and we're reclaiming that in this safe and sacred space. Now, interestingly, even on YouTube, I will sometimes get comments. I do filter them. My rules are the comments have to be respectful, just as per YouTube's guidelines. But I've been called a witch in a very not in a loving way, in like a very, you're going to go to hell. This is Satan worship. Just people feeling really triggered and angry about women coming into our power.
Yeah.
And so I would love to ask, you were sharing about how one of the steps is to get unstuck from where we're conforming. But one thing I've learned on the path, and this was my journey when I was coming out, and sharing my sacred work in the world, there was a lot of fear in the beginning of exposing. And there was this fear of like, they're going to catch me and hurt me or punish me. And I explored where that came from, a past life where I was burnt as a witch. But when women have some fear or ambiguity around coming out of the spiritual closet, or maybe not even necessarily that, leaving that toxic corporate job, leaving that relationship, where sometimes it actually unconsciously feels safer to be there than live fully in our power and shine and come out. What guidance would you have for women who are feeling a little scared or don't know how they can take that leap?
Yeah. I think we limit ourselves so much. That's why we create this false sense of security. But when we really take this step, it really is liberating. And maybe the best thing is to, like, because there's also different stages on this path. Sometimes you just know what you're doing is not right for you, but you don't know what else you want to do. And when you take time to practice, like, you start living in a devotional way to yourself, like see yourself as your highest goddess of everything. Like, how can I serve? Yeah, serve yourself.
Can you say that again for everyone, please? Because I just want everyone to soak that in.
Yeah, just how do you put yourself first, and how can you serve yourself and put yourself first? That's when you, like, start really integrating your highest potential. It's so hard to do that when you
So I'll
feel.
share with you, and with the women that I work with, when they get to that point where they say, okay, I'm going to commit to myself, one of the greatest blocks that comes up is around not feeling that I'm worthy, that I deserve it. Who am I? So have you encountered that in yourself and the women you work with? And what guidance can you share from the divine feminine in a gentle and loving way? Because sometimes I found even the spiritual community is very masculine. It's like, you gotta affirm it out of your head, or you know what I mean, visualize it away. And I think the feminine can be a lot gentler. So I'm just curious, what guidance can you give when we are going to devote myself, but the fear comes up, the lack of self-worth comes up, the doubt comes up, from your own journey? What can we learn?
Yeah, and I want to also say I agree that a lot of these spiritual practices have been very masculine and created by the masculine. It doesn't matter which country or which spiritual path it comes from, but it's like, okay, now I have to think like this, and now I'm gonna sit like this, and I mean,
it's a lot of perfectionism. And I feel like as a woman, we, like, for example, sometimes in my meditation, I just want to move, or I don't want to have a still mind. My mind, I'm off with unicorns and goddesses in the skies and magical lands. And for me, those are real realms. And I don't want to just watch my thoughts. Sometimes that's helpful. And the masculine is beautiful, right? Because it can hold the container, the Shiva, it hold space, you know, the erect spine. It helps us to breathe beautifully. So it has its gifts for sure. And I do honor the sacred union of both. But
Yeah.
I feel like whenever we're out of balance, that's when it can be a disservice to us.
Yeah, the problem is that we've only had that. So
Mhm.
when we're practicing like physical yoga, which I also teach, which
Yes.
is a great like way to clear your body, clear your
Mm.
mind, but also coming into like, for example, dance, where you get that shakti power and
Mm.
curviness, and not like this, everything should be
Mhm.
straight from this point to another. But back to your
Yes,
question
thank you.
regarding this.
This is
So,
woman. We're going with the flow.
yeah, we're going like this.
Yes.
That's the second. So, yeah, back to that question is everything has to do with self-love again. So the worthiness, if you, yeah, one of the fears, and which I also experienced when before taking a step into the direction which I'm on now, was that I have to be like, in Sweden we say like the good girl, like how to be
Mm.
a good girl. You have to like, yeah, you study, you get your job, you perform well, you stay late if you need to, like all of that. And then you start feeling, but how how can I, yeah, be worthy of doing something that I love without other people judging me? So sometimes, like, that's also the
Mm.
part of the process, like how can you stop caring about what
Right.
others think about you, because that has
I
nothing
think
to
I
do
literally have a video that with that title because it comes up so much for us women, especially. Thank
yeah.
you for bringing that up. Yes.
And why are you feeling that you have to be good for someone
Right.
else and not yourself? Like, why do you need other people's approval? So there's so many layers, but yeah, I think I see it in so many women now are shifting, like, what am I doing? Like everything that
Mhm.
I've studied and worked, like it's not
We're
bringing me.
waking up.
Yeah, there's major
So what
awakenings.
have you found that can help us through that process? Are there any like one or two tangible things, especially because you teach yoga and you
Yeah.
work as a doula and you do all this beautiful body work and yoga as well. You know, I did yoga teacher in Thailand. Another reason we are soulmate sisters,
Yeah.
so much in common on our paths. But I was blessed to have a beautiful goddess who taught us. Very, very, very feminine and heart
Yeah.
centered, but she's had a background in like Ashtanga, you know, and just like there's, you know, yoga can become very masculine as well,
Yeah.
and rigid. So I'm curious, like, how can we women heal some of the mental, emotional, energetic blocks around self-love, self-worth, freeing ourselves, not caring what other people think,
Mm.
through some body work or some shakti work, some breath work,
Yeah.
as I know you love. So I want to
Oh,
hear a couple of juicy goddess tips
yeah,
from you for our beautiful listeners that they can try.
definitely. And something that has really been huge for me these past weeks, when we actually are in really
Yes,
God times, is
yes.
that something that I had a passion for since I was a child, which was dancing, and which I did for many, many years, even before yoga. That's also why I loved it so much, is because I could use my feminine energy and channel it and ground it. So like, just, and it doesn't matter how it looks, just
Right.
like that's one of the ways like that I feel like fully in my divine feminine. It's not when I'm doing
Mm.
physical yoga. When I do physical yoga, it's a
Okay.
lot to like calm the mind, you know, the mind, the more yang, and calming that. And I've used yoga to clear all of my blockages. There's so much
Amazing.
like the physical part of yoga, but you can take walks in nature and also
Mhm.
do that. So because I know that yoga, like I always prescribe meditation and yoga, but that's not for everyone either.
Sure.
And when you use dancing or any type of movement that feels good for you, you go into your true like feminine essence. You can,
Mhm.
there's so many videos on YouTube that you can do. Maybe we can do a dance video here. Like there's so much you can do, and it's really connecting yourself with your womb. That's another practice. Like
Mhm.
how does it feel to just sit and have your hands on your womb space,
Mm.
and just connect with your pelvis, your pelvic
Mm.
area, your heart, your, like, also I think it could be beneficial to be in sister circles, like being in
Yes.
circles and sharing and
Yes.
hearing
It's
others'
so magical.
stories. Yeah, you
Yes.
connect because you have the same, you meet so many like-minded women,
Yes.
and it
And
brings
then
you.
just to share right now, we know in these times a lot of us can't get together physically, but we can gather virtually
Ah,
until we can get together, to get in person. That, is still very, very powerful to
yeah.
meet and gather in any way and to share and hold space for each other, to dance together, even virtually, and do rituals together. It's, there's still ways to connect, but it's so healing and powerful. For women to gather, I always say when women gather, magic happens.
Yeah,
I've
it
been blessed to host circles for many, many years and started doing retreats a few years ago, Egypt and Peru. And our Egypt is a little postponed right now, and hopefully it will, still happen. But there's something so powerful. I know whenever I've done circles, I have a theme usually, where we're going to connect with our wombs or awake goddess of love or abundance or the inner witch. But I know that no matter what the goddess was of that circle, it was actually the sharing and hearing that every woman, her story might be different, but it's the same path. It's the same inner struggles. It's the same, we're all hoping to, we have our desires, we have our triumph, we have, and seeing how much we actually share, there's
mm.
something so healing and powerful about that. So how can women, well, I'm curious in your experience, why is it so medicinal for women to gather?
It's so, when we're in the healthy feminine, where there's no masculine interference, which is that we have to compete with each other. We are there to strengthen each other, be vulnerable together. We are coming, connecting back to the Divine Mother through each other, because everyone is wanting to connect with the Divine Mother. Men crave women because they're craving the mother, and that's why
Mm.
there's also unhealthy relationships with ourselves and with others. So how do we, like, we embody? I was in a beautiful space with women a couple of years ago. That was when my journey also started, and where we should were it was a beautiful mentor from the US, Jayal, and she does this womb breathing, and we were also supporting each other and embodying the Divine Mother and how it is to be held. So we were holding space for each other, and all of us were crying. It was so beautiful. And when we gather as women, we are going back to our roots, how it used to be, because we used to, like, we were surrounded by women. Women gave birth around women. Women were teaching each other. They were supporting each other. And now we're so segregated. And when we come back to our roots, we feel like very comfortable in it, because that's our natural state. That's why our hormones also
Thank
connect, our
you.
periods are, like, it's really, we like when you're giving birth, the if a woman enters the room, her oxytocin
Oh,
levels also go up.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it goes up because
Really?
the birthing woman's oxytocin is going up to contract,
Oh,
like, the
I
whole
just
womb.
got goddess bumps.
Yeah. So we're so connected. We don't know that, even on
Oh,
hormone level. So
that's
yeah,
incredible. And
I
have you
think
found that in your experience as a doula when you're helping women through their beautiful initiation into motherhood, what that feels like?
it's the most magical space, because it, like, you are entering like a divine portal. It's, I was afraid the first time. I had done my education and everything in a
Okay.
certified doula, but I was like, what do I do, and what should I remember to do? And when I got in there, it was so natural. It's like I've
Mm.
been doing it forever, and all of us have been in past lives been participating in births, because
Mm.
that was what was natural. If
Mm.
our mothers gave birth, sisters, friends, and it is you get elevated. It's
Mm.
really it's like, you know, when you go to like power places in on
Yes.
earth, that
Oh,
creates a power place
oh
right
my
there.
God.
Like you can be up for a whole night without feeling even tired when you're assisting. So
That
it's
is
really,
so beautiful. What a
yeah.
blessing that you get to be in that space.
Oh,
And my
yes.
question for you, my love, is for those of us, whether we're mothers or not, what have you learned that you could share with us about the power of women, of, you know, the shakti of our womb, seeing women give birth, but then also for those of us who are trying or on the fertility journey or birthing other things, what have you learned about the shakti in our wombs, no matter what our physical experience so far with motherhood and birth is, that really
Mm.
inspire us that we should remember and reclaim?
Yeah, I think it's really, our womb is constantly in a cycle, and we
Mm.
should definitely listen to her. Like, how is our cycle? Like, do we know, like, how is the nature of our womb, and what is she telling us? Like, how is our bleeding time? How is our
Mhm.
blood? What do we do with the blood? That's really important as well. And then understanding, like, now I know I'm in the end of my cycle, so I know like everything is like dropping. She's preparing me
Mm.
to go into my winter and to go within and slow down, and with all these retrograde, that's perfect. And I really feel it, I'm really slowing down.
Mm.
And uh, and just know that we are always embodying, we, in different times of our lives, we're embodying the maiden, the mother, the crone. And the mothering is mothering yourself, mothering others, mothering earth,
Mm.
mothering, just to mother. Like, that's our nature, even if we don't have children. Like, you and me don't have children, but we are still,
Not yet.
not yet, but we're still
They're
mothering.
coming.
Exactly, we're mothering in
Mm.
a different way. Like,
Mm.
and to connect with the womb is like it's really powerful to
Mm.
listen. I had that experience. I think it was after you and me spoke that I heard her clearly. Like, it was the first time I heard her voice,
Oh,
not just the
of your
intuition.
womb.
Exactly. So
Mm.
if we sit down and really talk to our body, if we're in pain, or like any
Mhm.
body part, but the womb especially, and ask her, like, what do you need? What do I need? How, like, what is going on right now? She will tell you. So
Mm. Well,
it's
I love
really,
that you talked earlier about putting the hands on the womb, which is such a beautiful way to connect with her. And for
yeah,
those of us in our menstruating
massage.
years, the bleeding time, she is really bringing our awareness to her. Is there another practice that you can share with us on really connecting with our beautiful womb, maybe in an
Yes.
embodied way?
I love, like, I recently discovered like self massage, like this, the
Ooh.
belly and the womb space. And you have
Mm.
like really great teachers, but also YouTube clips, how
Mhm.
you connect, because we're so, like, we love to get massage, right? But
Yes.
we never do it to ourselves, like in the Ayurvedic practice of Abhyanga, like taking
Mhm.
oil. And
Mhm.
when you feel ungrounded, or you feel like everything is like super thin, you're like open, you can use this oil and around your womb, and really, and also the pelvis. Like, have you felt your
Mm.
pelvis even? Like
Mm.
that, and give yourself that nurturing and the mothering.
Yes, I can share as personal testimonials that because that's part of my culture, the oil massage, usually we might use coconut or olive
Mm,
oil sometimes, even though it's greasier.
mm,
But yeah, it's been part of my upbringing and it's natural. So even when you're a baby, mom and grandma will just, and it's kind of tough too. They just like get in the baby and just rub them, and the sun is shining, and babies just get these blissed out massages, and it normally becomes part of your own self-care as you grow up. So it is very grounding, very nurturing. I of course like to add a couple of essential oils. Now with the womb, of course, as you said, there are beautiful videos, but do you find that it's is there any specific way that you like to do it? Do you like to turn it into a ritual, or is it more like after your shower you can do it? How can our women really apply this in their lives as a sacred self-care practice?
It can be, rituals can be beautiful, but it can also feel like a specific like moment that you have to set aside. You can just
Sure.
sit in your couch, and instead of having your
Mm.
hands on the sofa, you can sit there
Right.
and then just circle around your belly and the lower part of your belly, and
Mm.
just and both ways, and feel, maybe go in deeper with your fingers in your belly and feel what's like inside. You can feel your
Mm.
organs. You can even push into your
Mm-hmm.
like right side of your rib. You can feel your liver. Like, why don't we do that? We in like Chinese medicine, that's one of the way to diagnose also, like
Wow.
palpitations, or palpations. And yeah, just doing that. And if you want to make it into a ritual, you can do that with special oils, and you can also steam, which is really,
Mm-hmm.
I love steaming.
Yes, I'm
Yeah.
really hoping one day to have a beautiful, Mayan womb practitioner, healer, goddess with us, because the
Mhm.
Mayans have so many rituals around Mayan womb and Mayan yoni steaming. So that would be really beautiful to get more in depth with that with a priestess where
Yeah,
that's part of her lineage. Um, because
exactly.
these rituals are so, so powerful. But I do appreciate what you shared, that it can be a ritual if you want to make, a moment out of it. But then
Yeah,
since so many of us, right now, people are sitting watching their Netflix and in the
yeah,
quarantine and
yeah.
lockdown, or anytime when you're in front of the TV, why not just use that as a time for some sacred self-care? And of course, I'm sure you probably want to say if you're pregnant, not to do any womb massage
No,
at that time, right?
exactly. It's really
Yeah.
sensitive, and it really stimulates the blood circulation.
Hmm.
So we don't want
Is
that.
there certain times a month when you're in your menstruating phases that you should or shouldn't, or should you change how you pressure you put on or when you massage?
Yeah, I think it's listen to your body intuitively,
Mm.
because it's also in Chinese medicine, like during your bleeding, there's different diagnostic tools, and one of them is
Okay.
like, you like the pressure or you don't like pressure. That says
Oh.
if you're fullness or you have weakness in like
Mm.
yin or yang or qi. So like for me, when I have my period and I have like real still like pain, I
Mhm.
always take like something warm, but I can't apply pressure.
Right.
So
Yeah.
it depends on what your goal is
Hmm.
throughout the cycle, but like gentle massage that is not very deep, you can always do that to warm up.
Mm.
And staying warm is really important. Keeping your
Yes.
feet warm, your legs, your pelvis, that is really nourishing for the womb.
Hmm. Oh, yes. I know in my Chinese medicine that practitioners I work with, a wonderful acupuncture, Eric ordered me, it's like a little sweater for your belly. It goes all
Yeah,
around, and it's from
yeah,
a beautiful practitioner who does Chinese medicine. And I work with someone else, and I told my acupuncturist about this, and she's like, "Oh, that's good. Women back home do it, where they even keep like this beautiful wrap, like a cozy, cozy wrap around the womb." And during my IVF, they always, one of the secrets is getting cozy, cozy socks and keeping your feet really
mm,
warm.
yeah,
Not putting any heat on the belly, obviously, during any treatments, but part of fertility has always been the warmth, to keep
yeah,
feet warm because it's connected to the uterus, and you want a nice, warm, and cozy uterus. And in fact, sometimes when they're healing it, there's yoga for like healing a cold uterus, it's called,
yeah,
because they say baby doesn't
exactly.
want to snuggle into a cold uterus. It wants to be enveloped in divine warmth. So I
It's,
love, thank you for sharing the invitation to keep ourselves warm and cozy.
yeah,
Mm,
always
so
important.
beautiful, so beautiful.
Mm.
Well, this has been so, so luscious. And I hope that our listeners, our beautiful members, will feel inspired to know that, there's so many different paths to the goddess, and to what you've shared with us is that we can honor our journey and be patient with the process. There's no pressure around, okay, how do I start? Because sometimes even that can be a little masculine of like, okay, now I know about goddesses, what's my next step? But actually just to say that maybe she's just showing me right now in this initiation that she's here with me. And in divine time, my connection with her might deepen, and eventually maybe you become a devotee and you serve her in your sacred work. But whether that connection is to be just for yourself or it ends up being, I think even if we don't take a profession, once we reclaim our divine feminine power and remember the goddess, we do end up helping not only fellow women, but we're lifting and healing the collective as well.
Yeah.
So thank you just so much for bringing that to us, that the goddess can always be with us and we might not have known. And then we can have an initiation where it's so clear that she's our ally. And I so appreciate your sharing, the blocks that can come up around self-worth and self-love and taking the time to really heal them. And thank you so much for sharing that we can dance, as just one sacred feminine practice to kind of shake out that energy, I think, of around the blocks to self-love and self-worth, and also to bring in the juiciness of the goddess. I so loved and appreciated the mothering, that we're here to mother the world, each other, and ourselves. And that's been a huge lesson for me on the fertility journey, is that I want to be gentle and compassionate and nurturing and mother myself in my initiation into mothering children.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for bringing us that sacred wisdom. Thank you so much for the wisdom of womb care and, just reconnecting, whether it's as simple as putting our hands on the womb or an intuitive massage and keeping ourselves warm. I'm just feeling into some of the beautiful golden nuggets that you shared with us so that our listeners can really walk away remembering, and maybe they took away something different as well. But most of all, just for your light and your presence and your beauty and your wide open heart. That is such a blessing, your sacred work in the world. I would love for you to share any last message you have for us women as sisters, especially in these times of just coming back to our goddess selves, and then how, if they want to go deeper with you, they can find you and connect with you.
And thank you so much for everything that you just said, and yeah, everything. I feel the same. I'm so grateful to have connected with you, and so appreciate your beautiful work and everything that you're doing. It's powerful. And yeah, I think just something that came to me now that you asked is that we should embrace all of ourselves also, not try to be one thing and that thing only. Embrace, just like the goddess has like 1,000 faces, like that's you. So embrace everything, embrace your light, your darkness, and darkness is not something bad, light is not something good or bad, like everything is. And yeah, just yeah, be with yourself and know that you are exactly where you should be right now, and you're constantly evolving.
I just want to have everyone breathe that in and give ourselves permission to feel how we're feeling, to be as we are, and know that the goddess herself has been all of it, and embracing that. Thank you for reminding us that we have permission to do that. And yes, it's true that the goddesses, like Ishtar, she has her shadow, Inanna has her Ishkigel, but they are the same, right? They make a wholeness. And what's been so beautiful about the goddesses is that we can be so heart-centered, but we can wear our black, and we can be the most like the Kuan Yin, Mother Mary, heart-centered Lakshmi, and then we can be badass warrior goddesses, who really know how to take a stand. They can be fierce, and we can be queens, and we can be, humble servants and priestesses. So it's just the goddess gives us permission, all of us, men and women, everything, however we identify, to fully embrace our humanity. And know that it's all divine. So thank you so, so much for that beautiful reminder that we can, especially in these times, I think, you know, just to have more self-compassion and know that we're okay. We're all okay. All of us is good.
Yeah.
So beautiful.
Yeah.
And so if my sisters and brothers want to connect with you and go deeper, how can they find you in addition to your beautiful Law of Positivism Instagram, which I hope everyone follows because it's just going to lighten up their day every single day.
Thank you. Yeah, it's the Instagram and lovepositivism.com, my website, and I'm also the same name on Facebook and the podcast if you want to hear from beautiful people like you who's been on it. So yeah, I'm on social media and websites, so just connect with me if I do different types of readings and consulting and
And can people work with you virtually if they want to?
yes,
And
so
what would
yeah,
that look like?
so I do like different types of card readings.
Oh, lovely.
uh, yeah, and now next week I will be having a goddess yoga online.
Oh,
Which,
ladies,
yeah, it will
Goddess
be
Yoga Online. Let's
yeah,
sign up.
so it will be early Eastern time. It will be
And
like
that's
7
going to
in the
be on
morning.
Law of Positivism?
Yes, I will post
Okay,
it there, and
okay.
yeah, everything is on my website. So yeah.
Beautiful. I taught Goddess Yoga in Thailand and it was so, so magical. So I know whatever you teach is going to be so beautiful, so feminine. It's just something really special happens when we invite in the goddess into yoga
Yeah.
practices. So I'm so excited for the ladies who are going to join you.
Yes, and thank you so much for inviting me here. I'm
Oh,
so
my
grateful. I'm sending
pleasure.
everyone blessings and
Oh,
love.
thank you so much, my darling. It's been such
Mm,
a blessing to connect with you. Thank you so much for sharing your heart, your
mm,
wisdom, and your journey with all of us. And to all of our beautiful beloveds who have joined, we hope that this has been just such a cozy tea time. If you want to see more heart dialogues with fellow beautiful soul sisters, where we talk about the goddess and the feminine, please let us know in the comments and let Shereen know how she served you. Let us know your favorite part about the talk, what you're taking away with you, what you might be practicing, what resonated. Definitely let us know in the comments. We would love to see how this served everyone. And thank you so much for your likes and subscribes and for sharing this because, you know, our intention in this sacred work is really to connect with women, serve women, empower women, and create a sacred sisterhood. And of course, invite and our beautiful brothers as well who want to remember the divine feminine within themselves. So really just creating this sacred community of love. And we're so honored to have you all
mm.
here.
Thank you.
I'm Syma, your host, and you can find me at flourishinggoddess.com and my beautiful sister Shereen. Thank you so much for being with us. Please visit her at Law of Positivism and follow her account because it's just it'll make your day every single day.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
beloved. Sending you so much love. Thank you for joining us.
Mm.
Namaste, my loves.
Namaste.